All right, welcome. We are trying out something new today. We're doing our first ever spoiler discussion about The Last Jedi. Normally, we just do reviews that are generally spoiler-free, but I think we all had enough. We try. We never promise success, but we promise effort. But I think there was just too much that we wanted to talk about. So if you don't see it in the description and the label of the video, this is your fair warning. This entire conversation will be full of spoilers.
Turn it off now if you don't want spoilers.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, you don't want spoilers, pause it and then go see the movie and come back and hit play, because we still want you to watch us. Okay. I think that the only place we can start is the plot, because that's going to kind of lead to everything else. We've done our reviews, but there's too many problems with this plot. There's plot holes everywhere. There's so many occurrences that are just taking place for the convenience of moving it along. Honestly, we could throw a dart. Where do we want to start?
I want to start with the fact that the entire movie takes place in one scene. That is the rebels escaping from the New Order. There's nothing else to the movie.
Chase film the entire time.
The entire movie. It starts with the Battle of Not Hoth. And it ends with the Battle of Not Hoth again. Wow, that came full circle. But really, that is the entire movie. Like, it starts with them escaping, and then them
look, we ran out of gas.
And then them being slowly chased and worn down, because that is a very exciting premise.
After generations of running away, the rebels, and fighting back, the rebels are done in by someone who forgot to fuel up. Like, how is one of the major plot points of what is supposed to be the anchor episode of a trilogy that they ran out of gas? Like, oh my god, the whole time I'm like, this is ridiculous. But I'm actually going to sidetrack everything we just said, because I know Alex loves this part. Princess Leia should have died way earlier in the movie. Can anybody explain to me how she just flew back from cold outer space to get back into the ship?
So unfortunately, the answer to that is the Force.
It's an awful answer, but
it's true.
It is true.
But the thing I don't like about it isn't that happened, because that is actually plausible with the Force.
Okay.
The problem I have with it is then they did absolutely nothing with Leia the entire time, and then we have an opportunity. Someone needs to stay with the big ship and sacrifice it, and sacrifice themselves. And this is the point where Leia looks to her protege and says, I'll do it. I'm old. I'm ready to go. Everyone I love is dying anyways. Nope, she decides to go with the rebels and let her protege die.
Well, the protege offered. But
why did Leia let her?
Josh and I talked about this earlier. The whole plot with Finn going to get the code breaker, to break into the dreadnought, to turn off the tracker, which the tracker negates everything the series has been about to this day with magical GPS, could have been avoided if, like Poe said, they had some communication.
Yep.
If Princess Leia's plan, before she magically survived outer space and was put in a coma, and her protege was to escape on transports that the First Order can't track, why didn't they just tell people that? Then there would have been no point for Finn to go to the planet. There would be no point to get the codebreaker, who would then betray them, who would then tell the First Order that they were escaping in untraceable pods, and they would have just gotten away.
And there was no reason not to tell them. Like, there's only a couple of them left at this point anyways.
Why would you not tell them?
These people are trusting you with their lives, and if the big thing is, well, we don't want them to leak to the Empire, the moment that you go into those pods, if there's a traitor within, they're going to be able to tell the Empire anyways, which is what happened.
I actually thought that the protege was the leak or the mole.
It felt like they were building it because she was so cold,
and
right?
This is the inconsistency with the character work in these movies. She ends up being some hero that sacrifices herself, which why she waited until multiple transports were destroyed until she hyperspaced through them, dreadnought, whatever. She ends up as this hero. But at the beginning, she's just this cold, militaristic person who won't even tell them what the plan is. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, oh, I like that Poe, and I'm going to go save everyone. What the hell?
So, I know you brought it up when we were talking about this earlier, but like, if that was going to work, which it did, okay, why didn't they just like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Send all the transports down, turn the ship around, boom! Like, that's what happened anyways.
Yep.
Right? Like,
yep. And the thing that I said this because going back to the convenience of the plot, when they failed the transports, the plan was not to fly the ship into the dreadnought.
Yeah.
It was just, she said, oh, I gotta stay back and pilot the ship while you guys escape. But before she decides to turn it around and fly it into the dreadnought, she's just standing looking out of a window.
Yeah.
She didn't need to stay on the ship to pilot it. She needed to stay on the ship to plot convenience it through the dreadnought when people started dying. There is no consistency.
yeah.
I'm getting a little heated. Somebody else.
no, it's fine.
There's autopilot. We have autopilot now. We can believe that millions of years in the future or the past, whenever Star Wars takes place,
We have cruise control now.
yeah. They have autopilot.
But again,
We know this.
if that was the plan, was to just keep the ship going in the direction it was while they escaped, yes, you don't need anybody there. It was there just for the convenience of then having her decide, I'm going to turn it around and fly it through the ship.
And what a wasted opportunity, too, because you have this new character, you do pretty much no development, then suddenly you make her the biggest hero? Like, that's just bad storytelling.
Yeah,
in
especially
general.
considering that throughout the entire movie, because of their kind of almost haphazardous or last-minute thinking, Finn and Poe end up looking like morons for the decisions they're making,
Rather than the heroes that
they're supposed to be, which could have been avoided if she just told them their plan and they did something else heroic to move it along.
And the thing is, I kind of like and hate that at the same time, because I really like that they make mistakes. It feels a lot of the time that there's just a series of brilliant choices and stuff, and all this snowballs into them. I mean, that's kind of how the movies 4 through 6 happened, there were just so many good decisions and heroic moments and all that are happening. In this case, it's kind of nice to see them make bad decisions and fail, but at the same time, it destroys their character when that's all they do.
You're talking about making mistakes, and that didn't happen in the first movies, and yet Luke went to fight Vader in Episode 5, which
But it was a meaningful mistake.
It was a
that
meaningful
meant so
mistake,
much.
yes.
The mistakes that they made here had no purpose.
Yes.
All right. If you have a point about this, go ahead, because I was going to move on to another.
We're going to move on.
Okay, next one we need to talk about is Snoke.
Yes.
I think that the biggest misstep, and there are many, is the fact that he can throw a person across the room, he can connect Kylo and Rey's brains across the galaxy, he can intercept her force ability to throw her lightsaber in the back of her head, but he can't see a lightsaber to his right turning on its... Like, does he not have peripheral vision as part of his powers?
I mean, he was kind of deformed. Maybe he was lacking a little bit in the eyes.
Well, I mean, if he's this powerful, which, first of all, is he a Jedi?
Who is he?
Is he a Jedi?
He's not a Jedi. He's definitely
or a Sith.
He's definitely on the Sith side, but I mean...
Sorry,
like,
I meant Sith, like
Yeah.
a Force sense. But he shot out like lightning one time briefly. He seems to clearly have use of the Force, but he's not a Sith, or maybe he is. They give us no backstory on him. He has all this power, but can't feel Kylo Ren using the Force right next to him. And then the movie just kills him off so that we'll never get those answers.
I definitely didn't like it. Like, Palpatine, yes, technically in the original trilogy, there wasn't much, like, behind him. Until, of course, you watch the prequel, which develops his character so much more. But he was just there, and he was a threat, and he was in charge of the Empire so much. In this case, what was Snoke's purpose? It feels like he was a plot point for Kylo to kill, which makes sense for Sith. That's what they do to their masters. That's one of the main staples of the Sith behavior.
You'd think eventually one of them would catch on. Like, I killed my master who killed his master before him. Like,
or at least stop teaching their apprentices to do this.
yeah, like, but Snoke is the biggest mystery of these first two movies that will never, like, in the first one, he appeared as, like, a projection.
Yeah.
There was a level of disbelief because you're like, okay, well, we'll learn more about him in the next movie when he becomes a presence. We'll never get that because...
See, the thing that bothers me the most about, like, Snoke's background is not that we don't necessarily know it, because you're right. In the first movies, we didn't know where the Emperor came from, right?
Yeah.
But they started us off with a storyline basis. Yeah. They said, this is the Empire, this is the Rebellion, okay? The Empire's been around for however long fighting the Rebellion. That's all you needed to know, right? Yep. With this, it was like, they didn't even really give us anything to work with. And because we've had the movies beforehand, we've got this massive gap where we're just like, what happened?
Yeah. I mean, once the Emperor was defeated and Vader, how did Snoke get into power? Where did he come from? What, like, there's no...
Like, we wouldn't have needed this if this was the first movie they ever made. But we need it now because this is the 12th movie they've ever made.
Yeah. What else? If you guys can think of anything, go ahead.
Do you want to talk about any of the time lapses?
There's definitely a lot of time lapses, but I think you guys don't agree with me on the dice.
I mean, you can bring it up. It's fine. This is discussion.
Okay, let's discuss it. Yeah. I'm sure I've seemed to have gotten the most contention on this one, but initially I questioned how Luke got to the base.
Yeah.
He's across the galaxy. I mean, they show his ship underwater briefly, so you could think maybe
he flew there.
He could have. But like, oh, there's no other entrance to this place, even though there is. He shows up there. We find out later that the combat that he had with Kylo Ren, where there was actually no contact with lightsabers, purposely, and done well to reveal that it's a hologram, to me doesn't make sense when he was able to kiss Leia on the forehead and specifically bring her the dice from the Millennium Falcon as like a memento to Han, because that has a physical property. When he disappears, because Kylo Ren realizes it and puts his, sword through him or whatever, right? Yes, he's an astral projection. How does the dice carry a physical property? And what's more, when Luke disappears, presuming his power is gone too, the dice that are still there that Leia threw to the ground because she doesn't care about a memento of her lost Han, Kylo Ren is able to pick up before they dissolve. Yeah. It might be nitpicky, but it's the type of inconsistency that really seemed to go throughout this entire movie, and it just bothered me.
See, the way I see it, I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit.
Then tell them!
But the way I see it is that it's almost like Ghosts of the Force, right? Where Force was used, a person who is very Force sensitive would be able to see what occurred there.
But you're saying what occurred there. There was no instance that he's visualizing picking up the dice. That's in a timeline. That's a future step. There was no period of time where Luke was there and picked up the dice and now he's seeing a vision of it. He's picking up the dice. That's creating a timeline.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm getting really loud.
From my perspective, I mean, Force users are able to feel things through the Force. Quite literally feel things that aren't there. When you consider that so much of the movie you had Kylo and Rey basically seeing each other and at one point even touching each other when they're clearly, millions of miles away. And you also see multiple times
Kylo wipes the water off of him.
Yeah, but he wipes the water off of him. That's even though he's inside, but
the water somehow went through the Force to him.
Yeah, but in that situation, the water went through the Force. It wasn't created by the Force.
Yeah. And the thing is,
I think
things do linger. I think we will see Luke in the next movie as a ghost. I think Yoda.
Apparently, Yoda is so powerful that even as a ghost, he can cause lightning to strike and destroy the tree. Sure, I still think if they're that powerful that their ghosts can shoot lightning, how are they not winning this war?
I know.
They say out of it.
I thought it was the greatest moment was when, before we went to the movie, Amanda wasn't going to come with us. And I said, okay, no problem. I won't spoil anything for you. And she was like, don't tell me anything that happens in the movie. And I was just flat out like, oh yeah, I won't say anything. But, Rey's in it and, Luke's in it and Yoda appears and all this kind of stuff. And I was just pulling it out of my butt.
I can understand Yoda being there.
Yes.
They've had visions of the Lost Ones previously.
Yep.
But where it crossed the line was his
When he was
ability to cause lightning to destroy the entire tree.
I was waiting for him to say it. I mean, he kind of did in different words, but I was kind of waiting for him to say, you still have many lessons to learn about the Force.
Speaking of the time lapse, and I know this is going to come off as nitpicky, but it more made me chuckle out of confusion. The scene in the speeders.
Yes.
They're heading at top speed towards this barricade,
battering
ram laser.
Yeah.
Full speed, which you have to imagine on these speeders is very fast. Okay?
Kind of fast.
And for quite some time, it's probably a fairly long scene. When they get knocked out, he drags Rose through the door of that entrance like that. Like he ran faster than the Flash across this battlefield in the split second. Like, if he can move that fast, what do they need the speeders for?
See, it didn't actually bother me, the quickness, only because, again, you could be like, okay, this is 5 minutes later. You don't have to necessarily show that 5 minutes. What bothered me is one that you brought up as well. They got all the AT-ATs. How come they're not shooting at them?
That's what I mean.
If they would have showed 2 seconds of him, dragging her and, them firing at him, dragging her, side to side, okay.
This is
If
what
he
I'm
was zigzagging.
He's
zigzagging
serpentine.
This is what I'm saying, though. This was before Luke appears and puts a stop to everything.
Yeah.
Right? So even if we're to believe that that wasn't immediate, even though the events that take place in the movie appear to me that it is quite quick.
Yes.
Did nobody see him? It's not like they were behind an entire militia. They sped out in front of them. So presumably, when everybody else that wasn't destroyed veered off course and went back to the base, you would just see, in this planet that's white, 2 figures running across the landscape that no one thought, hey, maybe we should shoot that guy.
There's no life forms on that pod. We won't shoot it.
The only possible explanation I can possibly think of
Is that love showed them the way?
is that the Death Star laser battering ram thing kicked up so much salt that nobody could see anything. And for the 10 minutes, because you don't actually see the outside in that entire
Well,
series.
nobody's going to want to watch a movie of 10 minutes of the salt settling. Yeah.
In that 10 minutes, there's so much salt in the air that nobody can see anything.
So how did he know how to find his way back?
He had a compass with him.
Oh,
Yeah. No. He used the Force.
He used the Force.
I still think that he will end up being Force sensitive.
I mean, they keep hinting at it. Yeah.
I've said it for a while now. For 2 movies now. What am I missing? Is there anything else, guys?
I mean, what was the point of going to the casino? I know we talked about it very hintingly, but that plot point was so dumb.
Well, again, if they had communicated the plan, they wouldn't have needed to go to the casino. But they didn't even retrieve the guy they went to get.
That bothered me so much. I was hoping that it would be one of those things where he lost it to that guy in a betting thing. If that was the real guy they were going after. Cause that's my thought. I'm oh, it's not the guy with the lapel. I bet you it's somebody else and the guy won the lapel. Right? That was my thought. But then they just didn't even touch on it. Not at all. Well, just let it go. And then loose end.
Again, back to the plot conveniences. The whole thing happened so that the betrayal could happen.
Yeah.
Again, this movie just created problems to solve. Because otherwise, the movie would have been an hour long. And
you're right. Think about it. If they would have gotten a guy who wouldn't have betrayed him, right? They may have gotten in there and disabled the thing perfectly.
Or
gotten away.
Or, let's try and think logically, because we're supposed to be believing that Leia, who's been a general for decades and knows how to survive, told people her plan that they can't spot the transporters when they're only tracking the cruiser, the larger cruiser. Why then there'd be no reason to go to the planet. Everybody would just get on the transports and fly away like they had initially said, and they could hide on that planet. Movie would have been over in an hour. Right? But the whole movie was just like, let's run away from the First Order. They'll get closer. Then we'll run away again. We'll have a fight, but then we'll run away. And it's like, all the rebels do is run away now.
And you know what I really don't like about
I'm
that?
getting so loud.
You know what I really don't like?
Yeah.
Is that the entire time the rebels are like, oh, if we can reach here and we can reach out, we can get all these people who are going to have enough time to get on their ships and come and save us, basically, right? Okay, and that's fair enough, and I can understand that, and I can understand that nobody was willing to put out their neck and risk themselves. What I don't understand, the First Order, the ultimate power in the galaxy, they have so many ships, so many things, and they have like 4 ships chasing the last people who can possibly stop them, and at no point do they think, why don't we just call in a bunch of our guys, have them come in, blast these guys from every direction, finish them off?
See,
they had like 3 ships.
This is something that bothers me from the first movie as well, is like, where the hell did all these soldiers come from? There's not that many soldiers anymore. Like, after the events of episode 6, like, that was the end of the Empire. Like, that was the whole idea.
These are some of the
with these guys.
These are some of the stupidest villains because they get it down to just the cruiser left, right? Which is slowly at a distance that can take the hits from the shield running out of gas. They got, what, like 10 ships with them? Why don't 2 just boost forward and come from the other direction? Like,
or why not send your TIE fighters? I mean, yes, TIE fighters, a whole bunch of TIE fighters without any ship support, they're going to get torn up there.
well, they tried to explain that when Kylo Ren went in, but I mean, again, you didn't even need to send the starfighters. You could have sent some, like, they had like 4 ships with them.
They just send one super ship, like battle ship, to the other side,
And then come at them from both directions.
Pincer them, yeah.
Like, there's no thoughtful strategy that even on paper would seem to be effective from either side of the villains or heroes in this movie, at least that they utilize, because they could have made good plots, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Not one of them.
Yeah, and they just keep making dumb decisions from start to finish. Just so dumb.
Anything else you guys want to touch on?
I think we've covered a lot. I mean,
I want to say this.
Yep.
That the Rey Kylo Ren fight in the middle
Yep.
with the lightsabers versus like the Imperial Guard type, it was awesome. But it also made me think, if Rey had turned at that point, it would have made such a better plot. If she turned,
If she joined Kylo?
if she joined Kylo at that point, because she has nothing left, and
She found out she came from nothing.
she came from nothing, and he's the only one who cares or whatever. Even if it's a lie, that's sort of the kind of lie that
A Sith would tell.
that a Sith would tell, and a new dumb Jedi like Rey would fall for. That puts you in a point where the plot of the next movie could be the redemption of either one of them, really. And instead,
Or finding a new Jedi, because there would be no Jedi on the other side. Well, Luke maybe wouldn't be dead.
which I think would have been another interesting way to do it, to have no Jedi left at all.
But the Force always has to balance itself.
Yeah.
That's why Anakin was born.
Yeah.
And that would have been Josh, did you say that would be a better plot point for Rey?
See, for her parentage, yes. Like we were talking about it, there were so many theories about it, and we didn't get that. We got, she came from nothing.
Well,
essentially.
I mean, since the last movie, people have been, as fans do, trying to theorize what her origin is. If she had Force-sensitive parents, where there was a lot of rumors that Luke was her father, that maybe Han wasn't.
was his
She was
father,
a sibling to Kylo Ren, and then we find out that she's no one
yeah.
from nothing.
And then I was talking about it, and I know it had been brought up before, but by some of the fans, about the Force creating her, right? Because again, the Force creates something to balance itself out, and you can really see it with them, right? He's Kylo Ren is the dark side, and Rey was supposed to be the light side, and even Snoke talks about it, how as he got stronger, his opposite got stronger.
But the thing is, if, like Alex said, Rey took his side then in the next movie you could easily have, like, Finn start to discover his Force sensitivity, or someone else. Like,
And it would have ended the movie on a down point, much like Empire ended on a down point, which is a good way to end a middle movie, because it gives you something to grow out of. Instead,
To hope for, yeah. In the
instead, the movie ends. The movie is completely hopeless from start to finish. There's a glimmer of hope with their little plots, but that gets completely dashed when they fail. And the only glimmer of hope is right at the very end. The one place where it honestly did not belong.
With all 12 of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is one of the few movies where I didn't care if the heroes won. Like, they just didn't
Deserve to win?
No, they did. They honestly, they didn't deserve to win. I think that we've kind of said I'm sure we could say
we can
more,
talk
but,
forever, but
let us know what you thought in the comments. If there was anything jarring to yourselves, what they could do to redeem themselves in the next movie.
try and explain how we're wrong about some of these too.
Or not even just explain how we're wrong. Just explain it to me.
Yeah.
There are so many parts that I'll concede if I'm wrong on something, but I just need an explanation on how or what is supposed to be taking place. And I am for that. You can write me an essay in the comments and just explain to me, what did I just watch? Until next time, live in the real world, play in a pixel one.